Okay.
Не волнуйся, нормально, не торопись, не волнуйся.
So they can come.
Вы можете подойти.
They can make demonstrations and then wherever they like to sit down in their prayers. Say 10 minutes of prayers.
It's too noisy.
Has she taken 5 precepts already?
А вы уже этот обряд проходили, да, то есть понимаем, да? Нет, эти вот эти, которые 5 основных обрядов, ты да? Я рада, это шикарно.
So she wants to sit here, she can sit here. Or wherever. Yeah. Does she usually sit here? Okay, so the first thing is to take refuge and generate the pure motivation for what we're doing here today.
Значит, сейчас вот вы будете проходить вот этот обряд, как сказать, обряд, значит, принимать вот эти вот 5 обетов, значит.
Будет well. 3 обета.
Будет 3 обета только. Алтана его only 3.
I'll explain.
Ну, ничего страшного.
I'll explain as we go. Yeah. Okay. But the important thing is the motivation. Why are we doing this? Are we doing it because we will become rich and famous? Are we doing this to please our parents? Or are we doing it in order to become enlightened, in order to benefit and liberate all living beings from suffering? It's very important to have a pure motivation.
Ну вот когда вы сейчас вот во время этого всего очень важно, чтобы у вас вот, была такая чистая мотивация, ну, чтобы вы принимали это с чистой душой. Это не для того, чтобы это было ваше собственное решение, чтобы не для того, чтобы, значит, угодить родителям, не для того, чтобы, значит, ну, свою жизнь улучшить это делаете, да? А вот нужно понять, что вот это вот делается ну, исключительно вот из таких вот духовных побуждений.
Sangye chudang tsukye chunama changchu padu dani kyabsun chi dagi jinsa gi besunam ki rola penchi sangye duparshu Sangye chidang tsukye chonama changchu padu dani kyabsun chi dagi jinso gi besunam ki dola penchi sangye duparsho Sangye chidang tsukye chonama changchu padu dani kyabsun chi dagi jinso gi besunam ki dola penchi sangye duparsho Ganden hage gonge tukane waka sabanchi chidinse chiki gyalo kongeno santa sedang gyalo kongeno santa dungi nangka se jipede ting jetsunama kebe tsungka chen Dano debe sunam shin chotu Tenpa ye che kyao ya shu su su She je kun kun kyao e lo ju tu Kyao son na we gen gu le she su Kan pek dwao ki nam tne te pe pu Ton tu den pe dun den lo chan sa Ye wan ju yuen na zhen me du tang, du xin du pu na zi ji jiao su, nge shan yu du ju jing ya zi ti, zi nan xin ju ke la zhi ba zhu, kan xu tong me du nian sa ba, lu yin zang me ge ge la san. Kewa dong wa sung ge mi dun chu, mi ne ge ba da ba su su shu, mi me du dian ma du du la zi, chi ge pun he de lu dun yu ji, gun po yu ge la chen se ba la, da jia san ba da bei yi rang. 觉自那么当白天郎，觉个大那天在觉见天，觉他张满都觉见马拉，撒个觉也查完都把都说，大个今年撒没给我的，天南路我不那当班。 Ke pa je zhen le san ta bai, dian pei nian bu yun du zhan jie shu. So first we want to begin by taking refuge. Whatever we do in the Buddhist path, we always begin by taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha.
Сначала мы начнем начинаем сначала с процедуры приема как убежище, да? Это так называется, refuge. Убежище. То есть принимаете своих хранителей. Да?
So what do we mean by taking refuge? Well, we know this word refuge means like taking shelter. For example, when it's raining and we're waiting for the bus, we'll take shelter under the bus stop, yeah? It's a way of protection for us. So this is what we mean. When we practice the Dharma, sometimes there are obstacles. Obstacles to our health, obstacles to our life, obstacles to our livelihood, our job. And so we take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha in order to protect us so that we can do the practice purely, right up to the end.
Значит, ну вот что значит вот это вот понятие защиты? Это вот не то, как, предположим, когда пошел дождь, мы на улице стоим, мы вот ищем защиты от дождя, как крыши. Значит, означает не то, когда мы практикуем дхарму, значит, в практике дхармы, это значит, что мы, значит, ну, вот, когда мы ищем вот этой защиты в дхарме, это значит, что мы должны сами себя настраивать на то, что мы, значит, мы должны сами для себя быть вот защитниками, то есть вот своими чистыми помыслами, всеми своими деяниями.
So now he can take with the other camera. Just sometimes he can take with this camera, but he can also take. He can stop now with this camera.
Сейчас.
Okay. I should add that in the Tibetan tradition, they also add the teacher, the guru, because the teacher is the one who explains everything. So we take refuge in the guru, Buddha.
Просто повторяйте вот эту формулу, формулу защиты за ним.
Okay. Namo Guru Be. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Dharmaya. Namo Sanghaya. And now for the second time.
И еще раз, второй раз.
Namo Guru Be. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Dharmaya. Namo Sanghaya. And now for the third time.
И еще раз.
Namo Guru Be. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Dharmaya. Namo Sanghaya. Okay, so now you've taken refuge in the three jewels, and you've come under the protection of the three jewels.
Сейчас вот вы находитесь под защитой трех драгоценностей. Вы приняли эту защиту трех драгоценностей.
You must never harm any living creature.
Мы не должны никогда вредить никаким живым существам.
Especially we should never kill any living creature.
И тем более вы не должны убивать никакое живое существо. Не имеете права.
And you must always treat the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha with respect.
Ну и всегда, то есть вы всегда должны думать о Будде, Дхарме и Сангхе с уважением.
So we always put the image of the Buddha high. The more ethics is the very foundation. Okay, now the three of them should kneel here with the right knee on the floor and the left knee up and with their hands like this. Yes.
Сюда пройдите, значит, да, вот само говорите.
Namo Gurube, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Gurube, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Gurube, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. And then think, from beginning this time until now, I've been wandering
За то, что вот вы приняли эти обеты. Мгм.
Actually, they're supposed to make the prostrations to me, but that's okay.
To you. Сейчас, да? Just now. Передучите его просто. Нет, сейчас. Чистую тарелочку принеси.
chisel. Is she? Chisel. Means wisdom. Perfect accomplishment.
Совершенно мудрое, совершенное исполнение Дхармы.
Yudin Chenche, Sushin Demba Langi Tsawaru, Lekpato Nebe Padu Mahi, Kuba Chamba Demba Jingelo, Lenchi Nebe Dawe Denzanti, Shindu Nikadun Chenshe Chane, Insen Kundu Ningolem Velu, Gunche Mepa Kepa Jingelo, Le Soyo Wachi Jubushin, Nudu Jipe Chiwadem Badam, Shawe Jesu Ludan Jipashin, Kana Linde Chishin Demwala, Nyepa Dempo Nini Beto, Trashin Dawanam Kyampong Wadam, Getso Tada Dupa Jebala, Tatu Petan Demba Jingelo, Chepe Mignon Dunya Kungiko, Yeten Mirun Sepe Punsogi, Nemi Rigne Tape Dewala, Dunya Zembu Nekeba Jingelo, Nanda Sampade Denwayi, Denda Shishin Kawyo Chepoyi, Tembe Tsawa Soso Tabala, Tupaning Bocheba Jingelo, Rangye Sito Dungwa Jishindu, Magyu Wa Punkan Dendrawa, Tongne Do, Du Kukenwe, Changchu Sam Chotun Wa Jingilo, Santen Ke Kyan Tsushin Lam Suma, Gomba Mena Changchu Midupa, Lepa Dong Mi, Se Don Bala, Tumpa Tapelo Pa Jingilo, Lope Yula Yengwa Shi Che Shin, Yang Da Den Wa Su Shin Che Bai, Shi Ne La Ton Zun Du De Lam, Nyu Du Gu La Ke Pa Jingilo, Tumo Lam Chan Nu Du Gu Ba Na, Tek Pa Kungi Chok Yu Do Je Tek, Nanda danse don ba suala, juma min pe suala ne varni, so dandana suwa jingelo, dene guden koren niki, ne nam ji shen don don ne zumbai, chun xin na zhe zhi le mi wa, da bei sun xian du ba jing gi lo, tie ta lam san dun ba xie nie tang, su xian du pe tu nam sha dian xin, qi dan nan ye ba de zhi bei zo, ne wa xi wa jing gi la tu so. Kewa kundu yanda namatan, dwelme chiki pela long jing, sadanam ki yun ten rab zone, dorje chan ki go pan yu to shu. And we rejoice in all the merit that we have made through our prayer. Love sunang da te che ju ba la, natural chun su ge la la we, tu ken yun du ne de ta shi shou, shen yung du ne la ma la jo la, su wa ta pe lu san ta pa yi, jin na shu ne shen de lun ge du, lo san lu te chang yi ta shi shou, de gu jo wa ya ki zo ta ben, que me ri kwa del dro gun che me, nin sen lo san tan pe chi ki da, hun so ka la lu pe ta shi shou, da so nam ki ting ne chan chu ba, ge dang gi gu ge wa sa chi ca ba, xin jie jie chen da pe zu ki ku, yu me du jie san ki ta xu shu.
Сказала, она такой обид получила. И она является профессором, доктором наук. На Сан-Диего работает в университете. И очень большую работу объединяет более 50 стран. Она женщин-буддистов. И это очень хорошо, я думаю, сейчас она едет в Гамбург, конференции женщин. Это очень хорошо, мы вот так встретились, благодаря ей Мы давным-давно надо было, конечно, нам встретиться. И все некогда. Вы просветительской большой работой занимаетесь, мы строительством занимаемся. Ну, потихоньку вот так, у каждого своя работа. Поэтому вот, это благодаря ей мы встретились, это уже знаменательно. Но встретили у трапа, это пригласили президент Александр Гамбоевич, Леонид Васильевич. Они все приняли, устроили, потом съездили на Байкал. На Байкале, значит, на Янджиму везли, Баракхан там. И это, конечно, гости наши устала. Но тем не менее мы должны были сегодня ехать в Занданджу, прямо в Яравнинский район, или Лидия Доржаева.
Сколько числа у нас исполнилось? 45, да? 45.
Суп не пьете, чаю надо налить.
Да ничего. По-моему, вот это надо вообще.
Будем действительно вот совместить, это очень хорошо будет. Вот таких больших мероприятий, как ретрит или что-то.
The stage and welcome to all of you who are definitely coming here out of interest. The crucial question is, can we do it in English or other people who prefer to have it in German? It would be difficult because, of course, most of our specialists here, our venerables, don't speak German, so it would be much easier and it would save a lot of time if we could do it in English. So if there's nobody who objects that, also ich hoffe, dass es keine großen Probleme macht, wenn wir das auf Deutsch durchführen, die ganze Veranstaltung. Gibt es jemanden, der dem Englischen gar nicht mächtig ist? Okay, it seems that we can really do it in English. Well, welcome once again. First of all, my name is Michael Zimmermann. I'm the representative of the Asia-Africa Institute here at the University of Hamburg. I'm professor for theology, in particular for Indian Buddhism. We'll later have an introduction of all of the members here on the panel, and Hamburg done by the Venerable Dungeon. And my task will shortly be only to say some words about this institution, about the University and the Asia-Africa Institute. Actually, we are very proud at the Asia-Africa Institute to host this, I think, extremely important event. It's a cooperation between, on the one hand, as you can see, practicing Buddhists, and on the other hand, of people studying Buddhism. And we have invited far more than 300 people who will come to this conference from all kinds of different countries in the world with 65 presentations. And I think it's a good mix of people who study Buddhism and who practice that. That sounds, for those of you who are not familiar with the German field, quite normal as it is in the United States. It's quite something particular in Germany because we don't have this tradition. As some of you may know that scholars of Buddhism sit together at the same table with people practicing Buddhism. So it's something quite new for Germany, and as I said, the Asia-Africa Institute is very proud to host that. Secondly, some words about the Asia-Africa Institute itself. It has a long tradition in studying Asia and Africa, as the name says. The tradition is actually older than the University of Hamburg itself. It dates back to the beginning of the 20th century. Buddhist studies in particular is well known at this institute and has also a history of several decades. In the last 2 decades, it has really become an international center for Buddhist studies, in particular Indian Buddhism, but also Tibetan Buddhism, thanks to one famous scholar whom you all have probably heard of, Professor Dr. Schmidhausen, who's not here today, but who will be joining the conference from tomorrow on. So this having said, I also want to mention that the Asia-Africa Institute has quite interesting plans for the future regarding Buddhist studies, namely we are in the process of establishing the first MA degree program in Buddhist studies, but also will be the first in the German-speaking world. Actually, it will be the first in continental Europe, which is quite remarkable. And the second initiative, which actually is quite connected to what we're doing here today, is the establishing of the Buddhist Study Center, which also will follow two aims. First of all, to strengthen the study of Buddhism from a purely academic perspective, but secondly, we'll also look forward to having an exchange with practicing Buddhists and with trying to introduce Buddhism in a comprehensive perspective to the broader public in Britain. So this having said, I actually want to hand over immediately to the Venerable Damchen, who will introduce all of your colleagues. And at the end, we will reserve some time for those of you who are in the press. You will get some more information on how the process of, how you call it in English, accreditation, probably the Akkreditationsprozess, will work for the Dalai Lama. Right? So please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm probably excited. That's okay with all the comments. Still have 1 minute in this one flash. Yeah. So my name is Damchen. I'm a Canadian. I've been here for 8 years. I was a journalist before that for 7 years in Hong Kong, and I'm now a PhD candidate in medicine. I'm just here to introduce me. That's pretty background. So microphone like this, is that better? Yeah. So I will briefly introduce the speakers, and then each of them will have a few comments, and then throw open for questions. So the first person that you'll be hearing from is Bhikshuni Karma Lekshmi Zomo, and you also have their biographical information in the press kit. Karma Lekshmi Zomo has been a fully ordained nun, Bhikshuni, for 30 years now. She's a professor in Buddhist studies in a religious studies department at the University of San Diego, California. She has her PhD from the University of Hawaii. She's the co-founder of probably the most important international Buddhist women's movement called Sakyadhita. And she will be speaking to you today a little bit to give you a history of Buddhist women's movements, as well as to map out for you the current situation in terms of full ordination for women. Next, we'll hear from Bhikshuni Tenzin Palmo. Many of you may be familiar with Tenzin Palmo's biography from the book Cave in the Snow, which details the 12 years that she spent in retreat in India, solitary retreat. She has been ordained as a fully ordained nun for 34 years, and she has been a nominee for the Nobel Peace Prize. She also has founded and heads a nunnery in northern India. And from Tenzin Palmo, we'll be hearing a little bit about the importance of full ordination for nuns, so contextualizing it for you. Next, we'll hear from Kamananda Bhikkhuni. She has been ordained as a fully ordained nun for 5 years. She is the first Thai woman to be ordained as a fully ordained Bhikkhuni in the Theravada tradition. For many years, 27 years, she has been a professor. She has her PhD from McMaster's University, and she heads a monastery in Bangkok, which was the first female monastery to be established there. And Dhanananda will give us a broader perspective, talking a little bit about the situation for Buddhist women in the Theravada tradition, and she'll probably tell you what Theravada also is, in case that's necessary. Finally, you hear from Jampa Sedrula. I think many of you already have her biography. She has been a nun for 24 years, many years, fully ordained Bhikshuni. She is also a PhD candidate here at the University of Hamburg, doing her work on Tibetan biography. She was asked by His Holiness the Dalai Lama to organize this conference, which she has been doing with the very close work of Dr. Tia Moore, who's also here, I'm sure you all know him already. And I think I won't elaborate on that since you all have the bio already. And we'll hear from Jampa Sedrula about the history of this conference, as well as the committee that was asked to organize it. So without any further talking,
very beginning, starting from the moment that a woman offered rice pudding to the Buddha so that he could walk across the river and become fully enlightened. There are an estimated 300 million Buddhist women in the world today, including approximately 160,000 nuns. But women in the tradition, particularly the nuns, often seem to be somewhat invisible, and their role has not gotten as much attention as the work and teachings of monks in the tradition. But we do have, from the very, about 5 years after the Buddha's enlightenment, when his stepmother and auntie asked for permission to join the monastic order. And after hesitating a few times, the Buddha did admit her to the Sangha, the monastic order. And so this is probably the first monastic order for women in the world. And it has continued from that time up until today. There are several different levels of ordination. The full ordination for women is called the bhikshuni, or in Pali, bhikkhuni. The bhikshunis have 300 some odd precepts to keep. Basic moral precepts, basic precepts on how to live harmoniously together in a monastery, and also certain training rules on just basic good manners. The novice nun, now this full ordination this lineage is still in existence in Korea, Taiwan, and Vietnam. So we do have a continuous, unbroken lineage of full ordination for women in the Buddhist traditions preserved in these countries. Also in China, though we don't have exact numbers for bhikshunis in mainland China. There is also a novice ordination, equivalent to the novice ordination for monks. These nuns hold 10 precepts. And in addition to the 3 countries just mentioned, Korea, Taiwan, Vietnam, and China, the novice ordination is also found in the Tibetan tradition, which spreads throughout the northern India, into Nepal, Bhutan, into Mongolia and Russia. There are also many thousands of nuns who are not recognized as holding a novice ordination or full ordination, but they live as nuns, keeping precepts very strictly. And there are tens of thousands of nuns in this category, also practicing very sincerely and purely, though they are not recognized and formally as part of the monastic order. So about 20 years ago, Buddhist women internationally began to get together and organize to try to work for increased educational opportunities and access to ordination for those who were interested. This movement developed into Sakyadita, the International Association of Buddhist Women, and I have brochures here if you would like to take one. So this conference, in a sense, represents a culmination of the last 20 years of the International Buddhist Women's Movement, and it is a very significant step for the future of Buddhist women in the world. Thank you.
To talk to you about what is the importance of monasticism, since some of you, especially in this Protestant country, might be wondering, why do we need monks and nuns anyway? So, from the time of the Buddha, his first activity in the world after his enlightenment was to search for his 5 erstwhile disciples and to preach to them what he had discovered, his insights, which had caused him to become enlightened as a Buddha. And for these 5 erstwhile companions, they became his first disciples and the first 5 founding members of what is called the Sangha, or the monastic community. So right from the very beginning in Buddhism, the formation of a monastic as well as a lay community was integral
to the spread of Buddhism. So why do we need monks and nuns? Well, from a Buddhist point of view, you become a monk or a nun, and in this way you renounce family life, and you accept a code of discipline which allows you to live a life which, as much as possible, is free from worldly distractions. You don't have to go to an ordinary job, you don't have to earn money to support your wife, to support your children, you don't have worldly ambitions. The focus of your attention is on studying and actualizing the philosophy and the meditations of the Dharma of the Buddhist teachings. So throughout history, for the last 2,600 years, those who have had the time and the opportunity to actually study and preserve and write commentaries on and to practice and to realize the Buddhist path have more or less been those who are doing a full-time job, so to speak, professionals, which are the monks and the nuns. But, so this is the reason why up until the present day, there are still in the Buddhist world, all over the Buddhist world, great scholars and great practitioners who really have actualized the path and are able to act as teachers and counselors and helpers, not only to other monks and nuns, but especially also to the lay people. And in Buddhist countries, lay people normally support the monastic sangha because in return, the monastic sangha are the teachers and the spiritual counselors. They also act as an example of how to live in this world with very little and still be absolutely happy and content. And so, especially in this modern, very commercial world, it is very important to have examples of how you actually can have very little and be totally happy with that. That you don't need to have your latest Mercedes to show them inner satisfaction in life. So basically, that's why the monastic sangha has. It is time that also we feel that they were allowed to come into their own, to be able to ordain other fellow nuns, which now all the ordination is in the hands of monks. But this was not how it was intended by the Lord Buddha himself. So now we are just wanting that the nuns also should have the opportunities which the Buddha himself allowed for them. So, okay, I have myself on now to Mananda, who will talk about the situation in Theravada countries such as Thailand and Sri Lanka.
Thank you. Well, I go back a little bit during the Buddha's time, when he established Buddhism. He established Buddhism on three points. Number one, he expected the fourfold Buddhists. Fourfold Buddhists meaning the bhikkhus, ordained nuns, laymen, and lay women. Two, number one, to study the teaching. Number two, to practice. Whatever you have studied, put it into practice. And number three, should there be any outsider not understanding Buddhism, criticize Buddhism in a wrong way, you must be able to counteract, you must be able to say, what is the real teaching? So these are the responsibilities of us, the four groups, the fourfold Buddhists that we should do. Now the fact that we don't have fully ordained nuns, at least in my country. Now, I don't know whether you have invited countries like Myanmar, Indonesia, Cambodia, and Laos. I take this as an opportunity to cover all the 5 countries. All the 5 countries to say that we are in the same boat, that we never had fully ordained nuns in our country. Therefore, the struggle or the problems that we are facing in our country is also the reflection of the problems in other countries, in these 5 countries that I mentioned. Well, why we don't have ordination in Thailand? Because the monks, the church, the Buddhist church, keep insisting that fully ordained must be done by both the bhikkhunis, the fully ordained nuns, and the fully ordained monks. When you are in a country that you don't have fully ordained nuns, and you insist on having fully ordained nuns first, it means simply to say no, because it is not possible to start. So I look back in the Buddha's time, even when Mahamajavati, the Buddha's aunt and stepmother, asked for ordination, there was no ordination, there was no order of the fully ordained women anyway. When you start in that sense, you go back to the Buddha himself, who ordained him. He ordained himself in a way, you know. So when the Buddha talked about his own ordination, he never said upasampada, full ordination. They always use the word papacha. Papacha is the lower ordination. That is just to mark from the life of a lay person to an ordained person. So we really have to understand that if you insist on something that is not possible, it is hitting your head against the wall. And that, of course, is not the spirit of Buddhism. So in Thailand now, we start having ordination of the Theravada tradition, starting from getting the lineage from Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka started full ordination since 1998, and ever since then we now have at least 400 fully ordained bhikkhunis in Sri Lanka, and they are prospering quite well accepted by the public, by the people. Some of the senior monks supported them. That is the issue that I try to look at Tibetan tradition. If Tibetan tradition have senior monks, have high monks supporting it, bhikkhuni ordination is coming into existence very easily. So that is what happened in Sri Lanka. It's a senior monk, the Mahanayaka, who actually started ordination for the bhikkhunis. Of course, they respected the lineage of the bhikkhunis, so they went and received the lineage from the bhikkhuni, from the Chinese, from the Taiwanese also. So that's how it got started, and this is the place. This is the place. This is the time that we sitting here, at least 3 of us, when the Lord Tenzin Palmo at that time, she was still in the cave. But otherwise, all of us here have been working for the last 2 decades. You know, since we were much younger until now, we are quite young. So it's a work of long years that we have really been on this.
Hat es jetzt auf Deutsch zu sagen, aber leider, sonst würden die Schwestern nicht mitbekommen, was ich sage, muss ich auf Englisch das machen.
Northern Asia and East Asia. And then you also have a branch of that called the Vajrayana, which represents Tibet, Mongolia, Bhutan, Nepal, and so forth. Basically, most Buddhist monasteries function pretty much independently, but there is an ecumenical movement, especially these days, in Hanover and Los Angeles and New York and Tokyo, where Buddhists from many different traditions are meeting together and exchanging views. And this is really a sort of new development and a wonderful opportunity for ecumenical dialogue amongst Buddhists themselves. And I think in a way, the ordination issue for Buddhist women is also a reflection of that sort of intertraditional dialogue. Ordination is important because it represents full membership in the Buddhist monastic order. So if we're going to talk about equity, gender equity, we would want it to stretch and extend across the monastic traditions as well. To remain a novice for your entire life is fine. You can still practice, you can still study. You could still conceivably achieve high realizations in the tradition. But in terms of your status within the tradition, you will not get the same access to education or to community support, not to mention recognition by the society. So there is a difference between being a novice and being a fully ordained monk or nun.
The other issue I
one of the reasons that this is very timely and the issue is coming to a head now is that, as Venerable Tenzin Palmo has mentioned, the educational training program that has been made available only in the last 20 years or so to Tibetan nuns, which culminates in the Geshe degree, which is the full degree, more or less. You can think of it as a Doctor of Divinity or a PhD. One of the requirements to receive this degree is to be a fully ordained monastic. So nuns are now coming to the end of that training program, and they will not be able to receive the degree, which then has tremendous effects on their ability to function as teachers. So without access to that degree, the kinds of gender imbalances that we're trying to redress will be talking about.
Sprechen Sie auf Deutsch oder do you speak also German? I'll have a discussion in the afternoon. And then afterwards, I think all the details need to be clarified. We have to go through the whole ride and check how we are going how we are going to do it in detail. And then, for sure, the place and the time has to be announced, and the candidates have to be selected. Who has the opportunity to become ordained first? And for sure, we will try to get high quality. I mean, nuns who have received the novice ordination a long time ago, who have studied a lot, who are practicing well, who have good discipline, so to have good role models, especially in the beginning. Good training also, we have to discuss how to get the trainings, and I think all of us would like to have the nuns involved in the training too. Not only the monks giving the training, but also nuns teaching from their experience.
I think it's very important if something actually happened here positively. How do you say in economics, when the butterfly flutter the wings from the east, it will affect the west and vice versa. And with this modern world of internet, if something happened in this country, this moment, it's already known on the other side of the globe. So I very much hope that it is going to make a great moral support, particularly in Thailand. No matter whether His Holiness is giving ordination or not, decide to give ordination or not, we have already gone ahead. Whether we have acceptance or not, we are not ordained seeking for acceptance. I think that is the wrong start. We are ordained because we want to take the responsibility. That which has given to us by the Buddha. That is the beautiful heritage that the Buddha gave us. So it is our responsibility to revive. Even our brother monks is not giving to us, we still have to. We have to struggle. And now, suppose His Holiness, the Tibetan tradition is going to go ahead with us. Now we can say that, look at Tibetan tradition, we were in the same boat, but now they have got themselves into a much larger ship and gone ahead of us, so to say. So I really trust that something is going to happen. When we started Sankirtana 20 years ago, I did not expect that I would see Theravada Pikulis in Theravada tradition. But before I know it